Think of the smartest person you know. What is the dumbest thing they've ever done? Prestigious Monk 8825 said, "My buddy, who is now a brilliant emergency medicine doctor, at one point while sledding bet he could jump off his moving sled, over a flat bench, and land on the sled. While moving, he realized he couldn't position to jump and crashed ribcage into the bench. Dumbest genius I have ever met." Klotster said, "I lived in Colorado Springs. My friend came into town and was booked into a hotel. I called and asked for the name or address of the hotel and he told me he did not know, but he could see the mountains from where he was. He narrowed his location down to a time zone." Salsa Rice said, "So MISA was assigned a group project to write about how their major works in different countries of the world. Like majors is in China, Japan, Canada, Russia, etc. MISA's group was assigned Africa. Yes, as in the country of Africa. They tried to tell the professor that obviously Africa is not a country, but the professor was adamant. They eventually just decided to pick one country inside Africa to base the whole project on, which one of them had lived in for 30+ years before coming to the US. The kicker, this was at HBCU. Historically Black College University." Little Asian Man 89 said, "My colleague was tasked to put mail into the mailbox. She asked me where it is and what it looks like. Around the corner, and it's a red box. Turns out, there is another red box marked General Waste. About 2 meters away, is the red box that spells out Australia Post. She's been throwing away mail." Bart's 824 said, "My brother's friend was high school valedictorian. In college, he gathered up deer turds to play a practical joke on his roommate by putting said deer turds into a box of Cocoa Puffs cereal. 2 days later he forgets about the deer turds and goes to pour himself a bowl of Cocoa Puffs. Instead of nice, sugary cereal, he gets a spoonful of deer turds." Eldon Tister said, "I was picking up my date, future wife, when her valedictorian roommate turned quickly away from the TV and said in all seriousness, 'Don't look, they're welding. It will damage to her eyes.' She got more serious as I continued to look back and forth at the TV and her. She actually yelled, 'It's going to blind you.' I then asked her, 'So when your TV is showing an image of the sun, That's as far as I got." You could see the wave of embarrassment wash over her face. She immediately started crying and begged me not to tell anyone. Jovi42 said, "My brother is a EMT firefighter that spends his free time exploring the outdoors, traveling, and reading every book on the planet. Super interesting to talk to, and the amount of knowledge and experience this man has had in his young life is absolutely mind-blowing. That being said, when we were teens at a party he was drunk as almighty hell and someone dared him to eat some grass, who knows why, and he grabs as much as he can in the backyard and starts munching away saying, 'Oh, so good, might be the best thing I've ever had, Harry E.' And that's when I saw that he also had a mouthful of dog shit that must have been on that grass he grabbed. When I told him he puked on the spot, I love that intellectual idiot." Iced Coffee and Cream said, "My daddy had one of his ears pierced when he was in college. He went to a party wearing an earring. A girl started talking to him and decided to give him one of her earrings, but he didn't want to take his earring out, so he stabbed her earring through his unpierced earlobe. This man is now an engineer." Browner 87 said, "That's an active correctional reminder. When you do something dumb on the job site, you leave the reminder in place for the rest of the day so you don't get sloppy again. If you're lucky, it's dropping a screwdriver on your head instead of sticking your finger into the live outlet. If you're lucky, it's dropping snips on your head instead of getting sliced by the sheet metal. If you're smart, you use those lucky reminders to keep you focused as you proceed." Sold Miss Owl for Hair Dye said, "To be fair, a lot of people probably do this these days. It's so uncommon to use your phone for actual phone calls that most people's brains wouldn't immediately realize, I'm currently talking on the phone, therefore my phone is in my hand. I have to believe this. Otherwise I have to confront the fact that I am drastically less competent at being a functioning adult than I'm comfortable admitting." Gallup Uscallop said, "My dad is damn near genius. The man has no less than 17 patents, most of them about medical devices like infusion pumps. A couple weeks ago, we were talking about the University of Chicago's mascot, which happens to be a phoenix. Now, University of Chicago athletes are known as Maroons. My dad looked at the phoenix and said, 'So that's what a Maroon is.' I said, 'What?' Dad, maroon is a color. He didn't believe me until I found a color wheel type thing showing maroon. Turns out when he was a kid he used to watch a lot of Looney Tunes, where Bugs would say what a maroon in reference to dumb people. He spent his whole life thinking a maroon was some kind of animal akin to a dodo bird. Desiderdimber said, my late father was a particle physicist. He understood things that, I think I'm not being hyperbolic here, only about 5000 people understand. He was on a team that worked on the calculation of the mass of the Higgs boson. His team got it wrong. In addition to being a particle physicist, he was also an avid student of history and completed 2 bachelor's degrees at MIT, 1 in physics, 1 in history. Mind you, that's not a double major, but 2 degrees in 4 years. Anyway, that guy got done in by a 2-bitcom job at an ATM in the late 90s. They wrote him a bum check for $200 or something and he gave them cash. Parsnip Pizza 2 said, my friend M is really good at math. She literally minored in it for fun. One day, we were walking along, and she said, guys, I saw something on Facebook this morning. We're only 81 years from the year 3000. This was in 2019. I thought she was making fun of the silly Facebook people. Then she said, isn't that crazy? And then I realized that my friend who enjoyed calculus genuinely thought that 2019 plus 81 equals 3000. I had to break it to her gently. I will never let her live it down. Parsnip Pizza 2 said, my friend M is really good at math. She literally minored in it for fun. One day, we were walking along, and she said, guys, I saw something on Facebook this morning. We're only 81 years from the year 3000. This was in 2019. I thought she was making fun of the silly Facebook people. Then she said, isn't that crazy? And then I realized that my friend who enjoyed calculus genuinely thought that 2019 plus 81 equals 3000. I had to break it to her gently. I will never let her live it down. Oxoffice in Time said, I did my undergrad with a guy who got an almost perfect score on his MCAT but also ate a raw chicken breast because he thought it was a really bad Hot Pocket. He was sober. Edit. For all those asking, it was one of those individually packaged breaded and stuffed chicken breasts that was frozen. He thought it was an off-brand Hot Pocket, microwaved it for a minute or however long you usually cook a Hot Pocket for and chowed down. He ate it so fast he didn't really question why it was so slimy, or still frozen. Another time, when he was in early high school, maybe 14 years old, his mom was making his lunch and feeding the cat at the same time. She worked 3 jobs and is a real-life angel, and mixed up the cat food with the can of tuna for his tuna salad sandwich. So he has also eaten a cat food sandwich. He figured that one out after the fact but was too polite to say anything to his very tired mom. He's a surgeon now. Knox Wild said, I have a remarkably intelligent, talented, insensitive friend. He's well-educated, an accomplished musician, very knowledgeable about practical stuff like car repairs and investments in plumbing and programming and carpentry and cooking. He is a very, very hard worker. Exercises and eats properly. Has probably never been more than 5 pounds over his ideal weight. He is in his mid-60s. He started smoking cigarettes and cigars when he was about 50. Did the whole thing of practicing in front of a mirror. He smokes once or maybe twice a day, with a drink in the evening. But who the fuck starts smoking at 50? Passion Interesting said, I had a buddy, in school for mechanical engineering. Very bright, but a little on the cocky side. He ended up moving to DFWTX area, ended up getting on meth, losing his job, then into selling it, then stealing high-dollar bicycles at the nearby college campus. Ends up getting caught with felony theft and meth distribution. Now he's on felony probation for 10 years, and lost his college scholarship. Novelty Act said, my fiancé is also a smarty but also seemingly has no idea how to remedy physical ails. He'll make a complaint, I'll make a suggestion, he'll then complain that the solution will not help and then he'll sit there in pain and complaining. Invariably, when I force the solution upon him it does work and makes him feel better. My knee is killing me. Me, wanna put some ice on it? New that won't do anything. Pissing and moaning continues for 10 minutes. Me, I'm getting you an ice pack. It won't help. Applies ice pack. Minutes later, Whining has stopped. This helps a lot, thank you baby. Repeat this over and over. No matter how many times my suggestion actually works, he's unable to see beyond his current, immediate misery to a future where he feels better. Novelty Act said. My fiancé is also a smarty but also seemingly has no idea how to remedy physical ails. He'll make a complaint, I'll make a suggestion, he'll then complain that the solution will not help and then he'll sit there in pain and complaining. Invariably, when I force the solution upon him it does work and makes him feel better. My knee is killing me. Me, wanna put some ice on it? Knew that won't do anything. Pissing and moaning continues for 10 minutes. Me, I'm getting you an ice pack. It won't help. Applies ice pack. Minutes later, whining has stopped. This helps a lot, thank you baby. Repeat this over and over. No matter how many times my suggestion actually works, he's unable to see beyond his current, immediate misery to a future where he feels better. Das Übersoldat said. Easy. Dad's an actuary. Basically a cross between a mathematician and an economist. Wrote a textbook for his field, and has been CEO of several very large companies. I came home many years ago to hear Age of Empires blaring at 1,000,000 dB. That's odd. I wander downstairs to find him playing the game, with headphones on. He had the sound turned up on the speakers because he couldn't hear it over the dampening of the headphones. To top it off, he had the headphones on backwards. To this day makes me smirk. Heathen Song said. I'm from Australia and I have a super intelligent cousin who ultimately went on to get a PhD at a very prestigious university in the US in physics. He also lectured at the same university for a few years. When he and I were 10, our families were staying at our grandparents' house. My mother and I witnessed him trying to get a piece of toast stuck in an electric toaster with a metal fork. She stopped him but I was amazed. Aaron Ebner said. I don't have a PhD in toasters, so I might be wrong here. The heating element of toasters is essentially a bunch of thick wires in a zigzag pattern along the inside of the toaster. These are connected in one end, but not in a complete circuit. When you push down the handle to start the toaster, it positions a small piece of metal that connects the big wires on the other side, creating a complete circuit. This causes a short circuit, that is too much electricity being sent through a system of just wires, no resistors, no appliances, nothing to slow it down. The energy goes so fast and in such a volume that the wires start to heat up and glow red-orange. This is the light you'll see if you look into a working toaster. And it's the heat from the short circuit that cooks your toast. These wires have to be exposed because the heat would melt any insulation. As far as I know, using a short circuit is the best way to cook a piece of toast. It's fast, high heat, leaving it crispy on the outside, but soft on the inside. Oopsie Daisy 1324 said. Had a roommate who was working on their PhD in psychology get mad at me for leaving the washer on the hot water setting. She was upset because she didn't think she could get her jeans to stretch back out to fit her. When I said they're cotton so they should stretch back, she said they're denim not cotton. I even asked her to check the tag but her thumb was covering the one so she said there was 0% cotton. Eventually I got her to move her thumb and believe me, really nice roommate and a lovely person. She finished her PhD just fine and I'm sure she's a great psychologist, just not the best at laundry. The Comatorium said. Went on vacation together to Florence and went to one of the best pizzerias in the city, so like big all-time great pizza experience time. There was a huge line and we waited forever. We see the menu outside the building as we're approaching the front. He says he's gonna get a calzone pizza. I said that's probably just a calzone. He tells me that this is just how they probably do it here in Italy. It'll be pizza, just calzone style. Our order comes up. I had the best pizza I have ever eaten. He ate a plain calzone. We still laugh about it. ECKG said. My roommate did 3 years of mechanical engineering before deciding he didn't like it. He's almost finished an accounting degree now and barely put any effort in. The guy is extremely smart. We're doing dishes together one day. He is brilliant but absolutely never cleans up after himself or does any dishes chores. And when drying a stainless steel pot, he says to me, "Man, I think we need some new pots soon. The bottom of all of them is wrecked." I look into the pot in his hands and notice some water spots, calcium build up and clean it in 3 seconds with steel wool. This genius actually thought the pot was ruined and was ready to throw it out over water spots calcium. I couldn't believe it, and thought it was hilarious at the time. Lord of Lighters said, "My best friend is a researcher for space stuff at a top university in the United States and is getting her PhD and master's simultaneously. She has several computer science degrees and graduated with honors. She's the smartest a lot of people know. I'm very proud of her. That being said, their list of common sense things is rather low. I've had to explain to her exactly why picking up hitchhikers is a no-no. Why hiking along trails alone in deep woods alone is dangerous. But truly the cake the incident that happened when we were freshmen in college. We went to different colleges several hours in different states away but talked weekly. 10 years later. We still do. Anyway, she calls me saying her clothes stink and she had washed them several times without wearing them. I ask what kind of detergent she's using and she says Tide. I say that it's probably the from washing machines and they're never cleaned and to get some fresh or vinegar. She agrees and says, maybe I should use detergent more often. Jazz music stop. What wait? I sputtered out in my hysterical sobs of laughter. Listen, smartest person I know, you have to use laundry detergent every single time you wash clothes and that's why they stink. As a child she thought her parents were just being frivolous using it every time. I asked her what she thought it was really for and she thought it was to keep the washing machine clean and was terribly upset that her detergent budget had increased after I told her. TLDR, my astrophysicist bestie was taking her clothes on a field trip through the washing machine and didn't understand the purpose of laundry detergent. Ixagazu said, that person has been and still is excelling throughout his whole life. Super talented, smart and just perfect person all around. The only downside of his life was few years back, he had this surgery and the surgeons on it botched the job, so he had to spend quite a long time in the hospital. During his time in there, due to the repercussions of the surgery and all the related procedures applied on him, for the first time in his life, he had constipation. Yeah, his life has been that perfect too. That was the first time I've ever seen him complaining about anything. At least that loud. It was almost a tantrum. He swore so much for the circumstances and himself being not able to defecate. It was really funny and dumb but I kind of felt bad for him. Ixagazu said, that person has been and still is excelling throughout his whole life. Super talented, smart and just perfect person all around. The only downside of his life was few years back, he had this surgery and the surgeons on it botched the job, so he had to spend quite a long time in the hospital. During his time in there, due to the repercussions of the surgery and all the related procedures applied on him, for the first time in his life, he had constipation. Yeah, his life has been that perfect too. That was the first time I've ever seen him complaining about anything. At least that loud. It was almost a tantrum. He swore so much for the circumstances and himself being not able to defecate. It was really funny and dumb but I kind of felt bad for him. Pentatonic Sky said, this is a darker post. My friend had a 4.0 GPA, developed an app for his college. You should have seen this guy's resume, especially for a 20-year-old, had an insane IQ, and was a very loving person. Although, my friend had autism. We both did a lot of drugs together in our high school senior year. 90% of the time I hung out with him we weren't sober. He had a hard time connecting with people. I definitely did too and still have a hell of a hard time being around people. I basically lived at his house for a whole summer. We went our separate ways, and went to different colleges and lost touch. 2 years later, he killed himself. This was the most disappointing news I had heard, so much potential in life thrown away. He had such a big heart, even though he was socially awkward like myself. I got the phone call in the morning and I'm terrible at coping. I immediately dropped acid and stayed in my room for a few days. Becky Dedici said, my uncle, rejected by the Air Force for his vision, back when astronauts had to be military pilots first, so he ignored full ride offers from MIT, Caltech, all the science and technology schools that were crushing it in the 1960s out of that pain. He ended up married to a cocaine addict, raising kids from 2 other guys, fighting alcoholism for 30 years. Eventually he remarried and straightened his shit out, just in time to get pancreatic cancer, all because he couldn't envision a future with different rules for the space program, or LASIK eye surgery, or accept a support role for the guys floating around in space when he couldn't go himself. He's been a mechanic and carpenter for the 40 years I've known him, and he's probably kicking his own ass about Musk v. Bezos v. Branson and their projects now.